Okay. So welcome to the Caregivers Brigade Information Resources. Thank you so much for joining us a little bit early so we could test your audio. And there's lots of discussion about dogs going on right now, so that's great. That's all part of the fun of the virtual classroom. On the agenda today, we're going to be going through a tour of the virtual classroom, and then we're going to meet the presenters who are here. And then we're going to meet you, Christine, as well as the participant. We're going to take a tour of the Caregivers Brigade website. And then we're going to meet with Ed, who you know already, who's the Family Liaison Officer for the Military Family Resource Center, Prince Edward Island. And then we're going to have a perspective from Lee, who's a family member, and life does get better. After that, we're going to be into the evaluations on the wrap-up. So I'm really excited to be sharing this information with you. With reference to the classroom tools, there are a few. Ed, would you mind muting your mic for a moment?
Sure.
Thank you. With reference to the classroom tools, there are a few that we're going to be using today. So first off, it's really important that you know that there's a participant panel here on the right-hand side. And that just tells us who all is here in the session. So you can see who's talking by the green line. You'll see my microphone headset has a green line beside it. That just means that I'm the one speaking. You can also see whether people have joined in using their computer or their telephone for audio purposes. Also, we have on the bottom of the participant panel is a hand. So click your hand, and that way, if you have any questions, you will know that you've been able to find the hand. You can raise your hand, or you can use the chat. Fantastic. So please feel free to raise your hand or use the chat to ask questions at any time. To the right of the hand, you're going to see a green check and red X, and every now and again we might ask you a yes and no question, and that's a great opportunity for you to click on those icons. So feel free to click on the green check if you have a dog at home, or a red X if you do not. I think we're going to have quite a few green checks. Jeanette, do you have a dog at home?
I do.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a little Shih Tzu, and I have a part lab, part boxer.
Nice. So it's great to have the little heartbeat. And Lee, no dogs or cats in your household? You're muted, Lee. You just want to click on the mute.
Oh, we have 2 cats at our house.
Oh, there you go. That's right. I did only say dogs. I have a one-track mind. And what are your cats' names?
Leonidas and Tinkerbell.
Where did you get Leonidas from? I love it.
Well, that would be my husband after watching 300, I think, and being a history buff, so all about Sparta.
Fun. That's great. Excellent. And Christine, do you have an animal at home? You're muted. You have to unmute. You do have a couple.
We have 2 dogs. We have a 12-year-old King Charles Cavalier Spaniel and a rambunctious 3-month-old part yellow lab, part retriever puppy.
3-month-old. Oh my goodness! When Sadie was 6 months, she ate our sofa.
She's eaten my customized mouse guard. They're retailed at about $1,000, so that's her most expensive destruction to date.
Oh no! Good thing. It's a good thing she's cute, hey?
Yes.
Survival. Okay, so then I want to show you the little emoticons, which you can click on the drop-down menu and you can pick how you're feeling. So play with those, and just remember, if you can all put up the coffee cup for just a moment. If you have to leave for any reason, we ask you to put your coffee cup up. That way we know that you've stepped away and you're not having IT issues, and so that's no problem. Just let us know by putting the coffee cup up. Great. A little bit further down is the chat. And in the chat is where we encourage conversation throughout. So if you're in a live classroom, we kind of ask you not to use the chat, or not to pass notes back and forth, but in a virtual classroom, it's actually encouraged. Because if you have a question or comment, probably so does somebody else. So I'll be monitoring the chat as the presenters are presenting. So please feel free to put your thoughts in there and any questions, and we'll make sure they're addressed. The other part that we're going to be using today is on the top left-hand side of your screen. you're going to see a big, thick blue arrow. Can everybody click on a big, thick blue arrow? And click somewhere on the board just to show. There you go. So now that works. Fantastic. You're going to be needing those. And you're also going to be needing your text tool. So click on the T. And if you just want to write your name beside your arrow, that would be grand. And there's 3 things that I want to share with you about the text tool. First of all, you have to click away so that we can see what you've written. So if you just want to click away. And then secondly, if you want to change the color, if you click on the annotation color box where at the end of, in the middle of the line there, you can choose a different color by clicking on the drop-down menu. Paula, with your Mac, you may have to click on the drop-down menu for about 5 seconds to get the choices. Great. And so those are the tools that we're going to be using today throughout the session. So now let's meet your presenters. Oh, pictures here, please. I forgot to take that out. Sorry, Christine. We're very casual and informal today. So Christine, if you want to be unmuted, that would be, or I know you've got the dog. So Caregivers Brigade team, do you want to introduce yourself? Jeanette, let's start with you.
Yes, hello. My name is Jeanette McLeod. It's a pleasure to speak with all of you this evening. I'm from Belleville, Ontario, and I'm the Director of the Community Education for the Caregivers Brigade.
Great, from Belleville. And Paula.
Hello, I'm Paula. I'm the Director for Serving Families, and I'm in the middle. And Maria's the last one on the right side of the picture, but she isn't able to help be here tonight.
You know what I love about this picture, and something you may not know, is that this was the first time that this team has been together physically, but they've talked on the phone every day for how many years?
Oh, about a year and a half.
Wow. So it was a wonderful moment, this picture. I could just imagine. Thank you. Ed.
Good evening again. Yes, I'm Ed McCauley, and I'm the Family Liaison Officer for the PEI MFRC, and I've been there for about a year and a half now, and the operation itself has been there for about close to 2 years.
Yeah, and so Ed is in PEI, and Ed, I love this picture of you. It looks like you're out enjoying the beautiful fresh air.
It was taken last week, just in a fall picture, yes. Beautiful.
Nice. Fantastic. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
And Lee.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lee Wood Landry, and I'm originally from New Brunswick, but have been in Winnipeg for 7 years with my husband. And we've been on this journey with PTSD for about 7 years now, and so anxious to share some resources with everyone and get some new ideas as well.
Great. It's all about sharing and having discussions, right? What was it you were saying earlier? As a teacher, it's almost important to ask questions that you don't know the answers to necessarily, because then you can really encourage discussion.
Absolutely, and you get some better questions and ideas out of it for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Lee.
You're welcome.
Okay, so here we're going to go with Christine, if you want, actually everybody, why don't you grab your pointers, because we all hope to learn something from sessions, I'm sure. Grab your pointers so that we have your name there, and then use your text tool to write your location and what you hope to learn or share in today's session. Remember to click away once you've texted. Looks like Lee, you're going to be squished with somebody. Lee and Ed.
I tried. Sorry, Ed. Tried to move it and couldn't. I was squishing you out there. There you go. So, Christine, you're looking for more about CB services. What's CB?
Oh, sorry, the Caregivers Brigade.
Caregivers Brigade Services. Yes, of course. You know what we were talking about? We will be talking about acronyms, and I'm a military spouse, not a military member. I don't know all those acronyms, the mandates and the goals. You're going to learn that for sure. More resources, more to offer people. Paula loves to answer any questions. That's fantastic, and I'm really excited about these resources. It's great, great information. All right, well, let's get started. And we're, as I said to Christine, Ed's going to share with us on the Military 101 acronyms.
Sure. First of all, the DND is for the Department of National Defense. CAF is Canadian Armed Forces. CF is Canadian Forces. And I'll use that as well, probably. The MFRC is Military Family Resource Center. The FLO is the Family Liaison Officer. PTSD is Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. And OSI is Operational Stress Injury. TBI is Traumatic Brain Injury. And sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. OSIS stands for Operational Stress Injury Social Support, and the IPSC is the Integrated Personal Support Center, and MFSP is Military Family Support Program, and the final one is JPSU, which is the Joint Personnel Support Unit. And that's only a few of them.
It is, and you know what? The thing that's wonderful is that we could do a whole virtual hour just on Military 101 and the acronyms. So thank you so much for sharing that, Ed. This is great. Okay, so we're going to start with the Caregivers Brigade, and throughout this, you're going to really get to know the team and what their story is, and then we're also going to give you a tour of the website so you can actually see what it's all about. So I'm going to mute myself and go over to you.
Would you like me to start, or Jeanette, do you want to start?
Oh,
whichever
sure.
you'd like to do.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. So, as the Director of the Community Education for the Caregivers Brigade, my role has been to facilitate assembly of information through the community engagement. My main goal has been to educate others, whether family members or organizations that offer services who are ill and injured. I've met with hospital staff, police agencies. I have visited educational institutions and organizations who offer alternative therapies. In fact, I manage a group which is called Healing for Our Injured Families, which includes many self-care options like yoga and healthy eating. I came to understand the difficulties that families face when my husband, who was diagnosed with PTSD over 20 years ago, recently suffered a heart attack, which required triple bypass surgery. There were certain areas in dealing with medical staff that were more difficult than others. Explaining to the staff that it would be to their advantage to have me present when my husband was coming out of the anesthetic was a difficult process because it wasn't typical procedure for me to be there. Luckily, through my discussion with the nursing staff, they gained a better understanding of why my presence was essential, and they asked to hear more about concerns that families may have, but not always recognize itself until a problem may arise. In speaking with the policing agencies, I've found it important to express that not everyone diagnosed with PTSD is a violent or dangerous individual. Helping police forces to better understand those they deal with on a regular basis also helps the police force themselves to better relate to what they are experiencing as a first responder. PTSD isn't restricted to the military personnel, as we all know, and it often becomes the responsibility of the family member to regulate what is happening within their home. Police and the medical community are assets in our community that we can rely on, but they too need to hear our perspective. I have also been invited to speak in educational institutions in order to engage those in the beginning stages of their education to express the importance of recognizing the signs of mental health issues and to acknowledge their role towards helping others. By engaging all these agencies and individuals and showing the human side of life with PTSD, we can reduce the stigma surrounding mental health and an injury. Thank you.
Wow, so showing the human side. Jeanette, I have a question for you.
Certainly.
Healing for Our Injured Families, is that a live session in where you're located?
So what it is, it's an online on Facebook, and it is a page that I decided to take a natural look at healing. What I do is I work very closely with a yoga instructor who is local here, and I take all this information of resources, of courses that may be going on, and add them to my page so that families can be aware of self-care.
Can you share that page in the chat so that we could access that Facebook page? That sounds fantastic. Healing for Our Injured Families.
I will do it right now. I just have to find it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing more from you, Jeanette. Thank you for all the education that you're doing. That's such an important role.
Thank you, Margaret.
Paula,
Yes,
do you want to share a little bit about your journey?
I'm just going to get this Healing for Our Injured Families.
You're not multitasking. What gives? No, I'm teasing. You're fantastic.
Open. Okay, I'm going to put it in chat.
Great. Thank you.
I don't have, my chat's not open for some reason, Margaret.
Okay, don't worry about it. We'll find it. I'll make a note to make sure we have it.
There it is. Got it, I think.
Super. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well, now that I've made myself look completely incompetent.
No, not at all. Who are you, Paula? What's your role?
Okay, I am the Director for Serving Families of the Caregivers Brigade, meaning my role is to engage D&D leadership and resources to identify gaps in programming and offer suggestions based on experiences that I've had as a military spouse of an injured member. The three of us, Jeanette and Marie and I, got together through social media and shared beliefs, which brought us to collaborate on areas that needed attention within the system. Because we all know there's not one problem, there's many. Although there are many supports available through the CAF, it is necessary to let D&D be aware if there's something that's not working and offer suggestions on how to make the services better for the family. It became apparent through discussion that each of us shared certain concerns about our own experiences, and in speaking with other military and veteran spouses, we recognized that there were systemic issues at play. So we decided that we didn't want to see other families hit barriers that we hit, and we wished to make information more accessible to others. So the Caregivers Brigade was formed.
What year was that?
It was just, actually, we officially hit our 1-year mark just at the beginning of October. So it wasn't that long ago that we came together. A lot of people ask us about our names because there's been some discussion around the definition of a caregiver. I found it rather difficult at first to self-describe as a caregiver simply because my husband is still serving and by all accounts physically functional. So many people associate caregiving with being physically incapable of functioning. So even for me, it was difficult at first to clarify how that pertained to me because PTSD is rather tricky. Some days are less predictable than others, and some days my husband's level of function is different than others. In the isolation of our home, our schedule may seem quite consistent, but outside the home are areas that might trigger a response from him that he requires my support. If he has as much as a bad day at work or even a bad moment at work, he relies on me to answer the phone when he calls. And so this is my role as a caregiver. Some days I may be required to do a few more things than other days, but it's not necessarily about a level of care that I am equipped to provide, but my presence when he needs me. So we've leaned on each other for support. Our team has leaned on each other. We've managed over the years to find manageable levels of recovery with our own husbands. So as a member of the Caregiver Brigade, we recognize that our level of recovery may differ from others. So we aren't necessarily saying to others, do as we do, but rather find what works for your family. So later in our presentation, you'll get to view our website, which includes a directory of Canadian resources, and you'll learn a little bit more about our goals. Now, I know that Marie wasn't able to come tonight, but I have what she does, like some things about her, and I could go ahead and read that out, but it's more from her perspective, so I'll have to kind of wing it. But so is there anything more that you need to know about me? Before I move on to Marie's?
Yes, I like what you said, finding what works for you, that each person would be different. That's fantastic. And the Caregivers Brigade website offers so many different websites that will work for different personalities and different scenarios. And also, please bear in mind that a health professional should always be consulted for more comprehensive assessment and treatment, like our little note says down here.
Definitely. Yes,
please go ahead with Marie's now.
Okay, well, Marie she lives in Aylmer, Quebec. She is the director for veteran families. So her role with the Caregivers Brigade has been along the lines of working with Veterans Affairs to offer suggestions on simplifying their system for the benefit of the clients and for their families. And as I mentioned, D&D has lots of resources for still serving members and their families, but there are also many available for members who have transitioned out of the forces into their family. So Marie's husband released and has transitioned effectively in many ways, but that doesn't mean that there still aren't those harder days and nights that would be easier if PTSD wasn't within their home. She works a very demanding full-time job, and they have 2 sons together that are very young. Her responsibilities have been a little higher than expected recently. As you can see, she wasn't able to make it. She works in a nursing home, so there's a lot of responsibilities around her job. And so because she works in the healthcare field, she does have the knowledge to work with her husband through certain symptoms, but she also feels it's important for other families to have the opportunity to let their needs be known also and be able to express their needs to those that have the services available to them. So some families believe that the symptoms of PTSD will diminish over time, or that they can handle it on their own. And maybe some families, maybe that works for some families, but the majority of individuals with an OSI require support. And so the family members also require support, and each member of the family needs to recognize what their needs are so that they can look at what resources are available and gain access to those services.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Paula.
Welcome.
Diane, welcome.
Hi.
It's lovely to see you. I'm glad you're here. We're just meeting the Caregivers Brigade team. We have Jeanette McLeod on the phone. She's the Director of Community Education. We have Paula Ramsey, who's on the computer, and she's the Director of Serving Families. And we have Marie-Andre Mallette, who's not available to make it, but she's the Director for Veterans Families. And we'll be continuing on now. I'm glad you're here, Diane.
Thank you.
All right, Paula?
Oh, I'm still talking?
Yeah. You are still talking. Yes, my dear, absolutely. You're going to go through now who you are.
Okay. We are families living with PTSD who have navigated the system. Our goal through our experience is to connect families and caregivers of ill and injured serving members, veterans, and our CMP with information and resources to better transition into their future. We believe sharing this essential information will benefit many. All of our resources can be found in one place on the Caregivers Brigade website. So each of our members, like our directors, has a spouse who suffers with PTSD and physical combat injuries related to service to our country. The Caregivers Brigade website was started because we found navigating through the existing resources especially difficult and wanted to find a way to make it easier, both for ourselves and for other families. Our goal is to connect families and caregivers of ill and injured, serving military, of course, and veterans and our CMP with the information that they require.
One of the points that I find is fantastic is that you're all volunteers and you're really trying to get, you've already been through the system and you're trying to make it easier for other people to find what's important, find the resources and the information. So you're not a counseling or support group, but you are, and you have $0. There's no fundraising and you're all volunteers. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We chose to make the information accessible, and when we made it accessible to ourselves, then we felt it was essential that we share it with other people.
Wow, thank you.
No, fundraise, because that's a big mess.
What's that?
It's too big of something for us to get into, the fundraising part.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Diane, I'm just going to ask you to mute your microphone. There's some background noise. If I mute you, you can't unmute when you're speaking. Okay. So you see where your name is on the right-hand side there?
Yeah, I thought I did.
If there's a microphone there, no, you click the red X, but if you click the microphone there, just to the right. Right at the end of your line, there you go. And that way you can unclick it. It's like a toggle if you want to speak. Super. Okay, so this is really exciting because now we're going to actually share the website. So Paula, do you want to just talk a little bit about before we get into the website?
Sure. We have found, I think we're up to, we just added one more resource last week, so we're up to 135 Canadian resource links.
Wow.
So
always changing, eh?
I think the last one that we added was Met Spouses, so that's a transition service for military spouses. They're doing a pilot project for employment, which is great. They're working on that. So you'll find that on the website also. But there is information lines. There's resources for D&D, veteran, and RCMP, physical and mental health, including treatment centers, children and youth services, transition and employment options, and research organizations.
Do you have the Facebook page also for helping for our injured families that Jeanette was talking about?
Oh, did I not put it in the chat?
Yes, you did, but I'm wondering if you have it on the site.
I don't know.
So now you're going to be at 136.
Yeah.
I love how it's growing.
There you go.
All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to share the website so that you can have a look at it, and we're going to go through it together as a group. I'm going to show you how to be able to still have access to your chat as well as to unmute if you want to speak. So we're going to share the session now, and then I'll explain to you how to go that next part. There we go. So this is Caregivers Brigade. Let me know when you can see that. It's coming along. There we go. Now, before Paula shares with us the information, I'd like you to push your mouse all the way up right to the middle of the screen. That way you can see your participant panel and you can see your chat panel. So just give me a green check when you've been able to find that. Green check, so that way I know. Okay, Ed's got it, good. So bring your mouse. Christine's got it, fantastic. Diane, bring your mouse. Diane's got it, good job. So that way you can continue to chat with us and ask questions while we're going. And you may want to see a specific site when we're giving you the tour. So this is the Caregivers Brigade website, and Paula's going to take us through, and I'm going to be your Vanna White and scroll down as she's speaking. Go ahead, Paula.
Okay, well, first we'll have to go to the resources link at the top bar. And I'm just going to walk you through a few of the links. Right at the top, you'll see the Family Information Line link. So each of our links is literally linked to a website. So every little picture that you see on our resources page, you'll be able to click on it and you'll get to their website. So on the Family Information Line, a lot of people know that there is a 1-800 number, which is displayed in the picture, but there's also an international number, so you can call it from anywhere. And they take collect calls also. So that's listed right on their website. So if you want to close out of this one, then we can go on to the next link down. I'm not going to go through 135 links, so don't worry about that.
Oh, come on. Let me just see here. There we go. All right. Okay. And the next link you wanted to check out
was SIFMAP. It's just down a little bit more on the right-hand side, the Members Assistance Program.
Okay. There we go.
Now, if you scroll down a little bit more, like not everybody knows how important this website is. Like if you scroll down the page, there's a lot of really important information within the page that you can see that it's not just specific to counseling for an injury. They do have assistance for a lot of different concerns that a family can have. So it's very important to have this number on hand, and it's outside of the forces, so you're going to another location, not on the base for your counseling. And there is a 1-800 number there that Margaret is highlighting.
I feel like Vanna White. I should have a fancy dress on.
So we can get out of this website and go in a little bit further down, and we'll find the flow, which is something that Ed will be talking about a little bit more, but there is a website that gives more information about the flow. So if you have more questions, then you can look on there and find information that is more local to your own area.
And Ed, you're going to be speaking to some of these points a little later on. Is that right? You're muted, Ed.
Yeah, I know I'm muted. Yeah, that's correct. I will talk about the role of the flow and the MFRC in a little bit.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ed.
So if we want to get out of that one, then we'll go a little bit further down to where the veterans resources are. And the one that I'd like to click on is the Operational Stress Injury OSI Locator. And that is important. This website is important because they have a list of 9 OSI clinics across Canada, and on the map a little further down the page, they also have 8 satellite clinics. So they're showing you that there is availability in a lot of areas, and they are talking about expansion in some other areas also. So it's a good website to check out if you haven't already gone to check out what the OSI clinics are about. And we could go back. I know we're going back and forth a whole bunch. And we're going down to health resources. On the right-hand side, the very top one is the drug interaction checker.
My other right.
The other right. Jeanette and I were just using this today, in fact.
We were.
Yes. As caregivers, we often become responsible for managing our spouse's medications. So this tool is helpful to be aware of any interactions that may come with changing medications. Because as we know, it does happen that sometimes they say, okay, well, that one's not quite working. Let's try something different. So you want to make sure that it's something that's not going to cause a big problem at home. So the next one that we can look at is OSIS, which is a little bit further down on the right-hand side I'll think a little bit higher up now. Yeah, it's on the blue one right there on the right-hand side. Yep. So OSIS is Operational Stress Injury Support, Social Support, and this resource is peer support network designed for both the member and their family. They're peer support counselors and family support counselors who are available to anyone that's struggling. And this is great for those days that are difficult, but you may be between appointments. They have a ton of information on their website. So we're into the children's area now, and a newer one that is becoming available through MFRCs is something called iStep, which is on the right-hand side. So this is available through MFRCs, like I said, for children 6 to 12 who have a parent with an OSI. And all MFRCs have staff being trained to facilitate this program. So if you call your local MFRC, they might be able to let you know when the next available program is running. We're almost done. I think we only have 3 left that I was going to talk about. So we're in organizations, and on the left side is Soldier On. So Soldier On is important because they offer equipment and programs to members of the military, the still serving members, and to veterans that are ill and injured due to service. So they encourage physical activity in support of recovery, and it's important because they are supported by both D&D and VAC.
Is the equipment on loan or bought for them?
It's bought for them. They have to apply. There's an application for equipment, and then there's an application for an activity. So if they choose to, if they decide that they want to use bicycling as their activity to help their health, then they can apply for a bike and say,
wow,
this is the bike that I would like. And, you know, sometimes the bike also requires a helmet or knee pads or those kind of things. So that kind of equipment isn't something that you generally would have the money up front for, but they can help with that. And same thing for the events that they have. They have different things like fly fishing. And so they'll, if you become interested in fly fishing, then they'll pay for the fly fishing classes. They'll pay for the equipment for that too.
Fantastic. Great resources.
They're really great. So we have a little bit further down the Canadian Military Family Magazine on the right-hand side. You can see it sits right there. So they have a website because they have the magazine that goes out to the MFRCs and you can have it delivered to your home, but they also have a website of articles that aren't always in the magazine. So they're constantly putting out articles and they don't want anybody to miss the articles or this information, so they make it available on their website. And they have a Facebook page too. And we're down to employment. This is a big area. There's a lot of resources in here. Like there's things about like service animals and things like that. But when we get to the employment services, the Futurepreneur Canada at the bottom, that's the one that I wanted to mention because that has that's the Prince's Operation Entrepreneur. So they offer workshops, employment workshops for transitioning members. And
not only employment workshops, they also offer like I think 8-day full boot camps on employment and in small businesses. Phenomenal, all free of charge.
Yeah, they do such great work and they have helped so many members transition. And that becomes an important part of PTSD for a lot of members is that they can't continue their employment with the military. So because we have treatment option sites, so we have one in Dartmouth, which is probably closest to all of you.
We're in Winnipeg, and well, PEI, I guess PEI is pretty close, yes.
Yeah. So I like this website because it is PTSD specific. It talks about, are you struggling with PTSD? And so like they have a lot of information specific to PTSD, whereas a lot of the other resources, they do talk mainly about physical injuries. And so this is one that talks kind of about both, but it really focuses on PTSD. And so we're down to the RCMP on the right side. We can go to the Veterans Affairs. Oh my gosh, my husband is falling asleep in the room and he's snoring. This is great.
Can't hear it. Oh, I love it.
That's a good one, Paula.
Oh, we're human. We are human.
Yeah.
So you were saying the RCMP site, this one is a bit different from what they offer for military as well, eh? There's a few differences.
Yeah, the RCMP has, they're still under the old pension system. So we as members and veterans have the new Veterans Charter that is things that has a lump sum and things like that, whereas the RCMP are strictly on the old system. So that their services are very different from military services. So that's why we put that that was why we included that onto the website. Okay, of course there's the research organizations, but that's just something that we included in case somebody was interested in what research was being done by these organizations. They do a lot of research around mental health, so it's great. But down at the bottom, we included the mental health continuum model, and I think Ed was going to talk a little bit about the mental health continuum.
The mental health continuum model kind of comes out of the R2MR training, and if you look at healthy stress reactions, the normal fluctuations in mood and normal sleep patterns, and if you're physically well and full of energy, you're consistent, socially active, those are saying that you're in a healthy stream of living. If your stress continues and you start to become more reactive, that means you're getting more stressed, more nervousness, trouble sleeping. Procrastination can occur. You can get, you're not getting adequate rest, and you're not engaging in healthy coping strategies. You're just starting to kind of slide a little bit. And if you're injured, and then, that's even more serious. You're experiencing anxiety, anger, outbursts, there's restlessness, there's decreased performance, presenteeism, as it's called. And that's when you're really present, but you're not present. You're physically present, but emotionally not. So at this point in time, you should be starting to seek help. The stress reactions are getting more severe, and if it continues, then you will become ill. And at this point in time, it could mean hospitalization, treatment, and recovery. So it could you could be excessively anxious. You could be starting to be very depressed. You could be isolating yourself totally from people. You could be avoiding any kind of social event. You should be at this point seeking consultation and seeing someone for mental health and physical health well-being. And so it's a mental health continuum model, and most of us, most of the time, are in a healthy. But if you're living with someone with PTSD, then not only is the member being affected by the PTSD, but you are, and everyone in the family is. So everyone has their own stress reaction.
Great.
That was very helpful. And like I said, every picture that's on this resource website is linked to another website. So if you were to click on the mental health continuum model, you would come to the Mental Health Commission of Canada website, because they're the ones that created it. And D&D and VAC have adopted the model and encourage its use for assessing risk factors. So that's it for the resource page of our website.
Christine or Diane, are there any other resources that you'd like us to look at, or do you find, if you want to, I'll just unmute yourself so you can tell me if there's another website you'd like us to look at, or if you're good to go ahead. Let's say, Christine, if you can start first.
This is fantastic. I didn't actually realize all these resources existed, so I'm just kind of taking them all in. It's wonderful to see them all in the one place.
Yes, they worked hard to make that. And Diane, do you have any comments, or did you want to see any of them? Just unmute your microphone.
No, I'm good. I'm just overwhelmed with some of them. I like that Caregiver where you can go in and find out about the medications and reactions and everything. That was fantastic. No, keep going.
That's a great resource. Especially, I'm the caregiver for my 87-year young mom, and the medication keeps coming differently every week. We're having new medications, so I'm going to be using that for that purpose, I think.
Now, if you go to the Contact Us page, then you'll see, I think we showed you a picture of us earlier, but we're just so excited about this picture because we got to meet. It was only last week that we got to meet.
So feel free to contact with questions or comments, right, Paula?
Absolutely, and there is a link at the top of each page there. You can see that it's caring about the war at home. That's our Facebook page also.
Fantastic. Thank you. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And we'll go back to the presentation. Phenomenal work you all have done as a team for this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see that MedSpouse was added. I didn't see it under employment, though. I saw it under something else.
It's under the D&D resources because it's a D&D initiative.
Ah, okay. Would you ever duplicate it and put it under there as well as employment?
It has potential. There is potential for shuffling. When we first started, I think we had 65 resources at the beginning, and it kept growing, and like this is over a year. It's grown this much that we found this many resources that are all Canadian, which is
fantastic. Oh, thank you, thank you. So are there any questions, comments, emotional outbursts for our team from the Caregivers Brigade? You can unmute and just raise your hand if you have a question. No? Oh, Ed.
Well, it's not a question, it's more of a comment. I just want to say it's just an amazing, wonderful collection of resources, you know, and to pull them all together and just have it on one website is just amazing. And you deserve congratulations for all your hard work, for sure.
feel free to share.
Well, that's what we're
Sure.
going to be doing. We're going to be sharing. For sure. Excellent. Okay, great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go meet Ed in more detail, and he is the Family Liaison Officer for the Military Family Resource Center, Prince Edward Island. So Ed, over to you.
Thank you, Margaret. Not a whole lot to say about myself other than I'm a social worker with about 30 years of experience. The early part of my career I worked in mostly in child welfare, child protection, and then for 5 to 10 years I was doing private counseling and running a family counseling organization. And then I spent a few years doing employee assistance counseling, working with individuals and their families, government employees. And the last 2 years I've been working as a social worker at the MFRC here in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. We have the uniqueness here on PEI is that we don't have a military base. The whole island is our base, so to speak. We service more reservists and people who have been released or who are veterans and their family members. And my role as a family liaison officer is a half-time position, and in part I work with the MFRC, in part I work with the IPSC. So I guess I feel really privileged to be able to work with military families. I had two uncles who were veterans. One was killed overseas, and the other I was a caregiver for the last 10 years of his life. And so I dealt with different organizations related to his health and well-being. And certainly when I read in the newspapers of soldiers who have been committing suicide, I was certainly invigorated to try to get the position as family liaison officer so that I might be able to help individuals and their family members. So anyway, that's why I'm here, but I feel really privileged to be on this website with you, Paula, and Lee, and all of you people who live the journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
So every military family resource Center has mandated programs, and there are 40 MFRCs across Canada and OutCan. And the whole purpose of the MFRCs is to create volunteer leadership and community involvement. And we do this through child and youth development and parenting support. We run programs in these areas. We also do programs around family separation and reunion, and that's a very important role that one of our coordinators does. The other one is personal development and community integration, and that is when people come to our area, we try to make them feel like a part of the community, and we do this through volunteerism and try to make people feel welcome. And that creates that family health and well-being. Now, the part that I play a role in as a social worker is the prevention, support, and intervention. And that's my role to work with military families through the MFRC, but also as a flow for the IPSC. Now, the family liaison officer, or the flow, the role primarily is to provide services and programs to support the families of CF personnel who are coping with illness, an injury, and or a special need, or who have died while serving. And we, like on PEI, we don't have the same kind of degrees of situations that the larger bases have, but we certainly have people who are in transition working through with them. And we do this through five different areas, I guess. First of all, we provide education and awareness about general health and lifestyle stresses associated with grief or with the occupational injuries that one may experience, or special needs and casualty support. We also connect individuals and families to other mutual support and help, and that could be through OSAs, it could be through some kind of community organization, whether it's something that they're going through on a personal level or a military level or whatever. We'll try to hook them up to the proper resources. The other area we look at is we make sure that people have the awareness and have access to the information of the relevant programs and service to help. That's why this website is so important. Them cope with the bereavement or the injury and or the special need of the family member. The other area that we provide support to individuals and family members is when in times of crisis or imminent crisis, and that's one that I'm quite familiar with working through with individuals and families, is the crisis intervention and support. The last one, casualty support, it provides care to support the recuperation and capacity of families in the event CF personnel become ill, injured, or die while serving. And part of this program there is emergency child care in situations, and sometimes it could be to the spouse who is home while their partner is deployed, and they may become ill and they may need some crisis support as well. So we can provide that through our MFRC. Okay. So that mostly is the role of the family liaison officer. Now, like I say, my experience probably would be quite different than someone who is in Trenton or in Petawawa, or you know, as the role of the flow, because the role of the flow is usually attached with a team of experts who are there to service the individual member who is experiencing PTSD, but also my role would be to assist the family to help them understand what the member is going through and what particular, you know, support and help they can be, and you know, and support them along the process and make sure they're connected to the various supportive agencies through peer coordination of OSAs and so on.
So it really takes a village, doesn't it? And it's phenomenal to know that the family liaison officers are all over Canada, correct? At any MFRC, you would find one. Is that correct, Ed?
You find a family liaison officer either right at the MFRC, but more likely attached to the IPSC. Now, they may go back and forth, or they may have an MFRC social worker who is working with family members, but the flow would work more directly with the ill and injured member and their family.
And can you say again what IPSC is for me?
It's the Integrated Personnel Support Center, and that's usually kind of a center based out of the JPSU. That could be, you could be still in the community but attached to the JPSU and go see your professional group at the IPSC. So, you know.
So it really takes a village. We have the information and the resources from Jeanette, Paula, and Marie, and we have the social work and the education and the self-help from the family liaison officer. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, Ed. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, not right this time, unless there's some questions.
Okay, Paula, do you have a question?
Yes, I do, if you don't mind. It's more of a comment. Like I said, we reach out to resources all the time, and one of the resources that I took advantage of it is going to the flow here in Petawawa, and I think it's so important. It's, you know, I think for the past about 6 or 8 months, I've gone there every couple weeks, and it's nice to just have that person to vent to. It's nice, and it's great to, you know, I'm sure my husband doesn't want to hear my complaints all the time. He says,
It's confidential, and that's the main thing, you know, like it is a place for people to vent, and, you know, again, it is to support the whole family and all members of the family, whatever way is necessary.
Right. And it's wonderful here because the flow that I see, she has a little table for children to sit at if if they can't find a babysitter and they have to bring their kids with, then they can just put them in the room too and have their talk time.
Yeah, that's a great available resource right there, just to have that place for children to, while their parent is getting some help.
Any other questions or comments or thoughts for Ed from the family liaison perspective? Please give me a green check if you're ready to continue. Red X if you have a question. Great. Christine, you ready to continue? Super. All right. Just wondering if you can comment on roughly how many island families you have had discussions with. Ed, can you comment on that? How many families in the island?
How many families have I serviced over the last year and a half?
Yeah.
That experienced PTSD or a member of the family has? Probably more a member of family has. I'd say about a dozen or to 14 that, and most of those were just in transition. Most of their partners were in transition.
Okay. One of the challenges I face communicating about island military families is the perception that the issues are not relevant on PEI. So another comment says that the challenges that are faced in Prince Edward Island is communicating to families the importance of your role. Because there's a perception that these issues are not relevant on PEI, but they actually are. How do you communicate that to, what suggestions might you have to communicate the importance of your role for PEI?
Well, I think the importance of our role is that there's many people who perhaps don't experience PTSD until sometime, in the latter stages of their transition or whatever. It could be, PTSD can show up at any time. So whether a person has served, active duty or has worked in the environment and seen some things perhaps years ago that perhaps, just hasn't really hit home yet. So to say that the issues on PEI don't exist, I'd like to see the documentation of that to begin with, but to make our more awareness, we do that all the time. We try to create more awareness of the issues of PTSD and the effects on family members. We do tip-to-tip regularly to make sure that anyone out there that perhaps does have a family member, and it doesn't have to be an immediate family member, it can be other family members that, that they don't really know. They can just assume that because we don't have a large base and we don't have the population, that we perhaps don't have the same issues, but we may have a smaller number, but we still have the population.
That's right. So perception is not always reality. Exactly. Thank you, Ed. That's great. Christine, did that answer your question? Great. Excellent. Okay. So we're going to move on now. I'd like to introduce you to Lee, who is a wife of a combat veteran and still serving member with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. Lee, are you there, darling?
I am. Hi, everyone. So I'm here because I found out about the Caregivers Brigade through Margaret, and I thought this would be a wonderful workshop to participate in. I also got to speak with Paula a couple of weeks ago, and I've been fascinated by all the information that's available all in one spot. It's a great comprehensive resource. It's already been helpful to my husband and some of his peers because having PTSD with or without traumatic brain injury, it can be very difficult to focus and to find the right resources, and the Caregivers Brigade have that all in one spot. So it's kind of one-stop shopping has been very helpful. So I'm taking part for that reason. So yes, my husband is a combat veteran. He's still serving for now. His main injuries are PTSD and traumatic brain injury, and they can occur separately, but they do coexist in his and in many cases. As Paula mentioned, levels of recovery and caregiving vary, and that's absolutely true for us as well, but we're a lot closer to thriving than to the survival mode we were in 7 years ago. So I'm also hoping to encourage others to see that they can find similar levels of recovery with a few key strategies.
Well, wonderful, Lee. I look forward to your presentation.
Thank you.
So when you were doing your presentation, oh, there's my dog flip-flopping. When you were doing your presentation, you put a lot of thought into dealing with common triggers. Can you explain to me your process on this slide, what you were thinking?
Absolutely. So again, this is going to be mostly from the perspective of myself and my husband, but also in conversation with several other spouses and families about some of the situations that bring a lot of reactivity and how to work through those, because I can relate to feeling caught up in situations that spiral a bit, and also know that with patience and practice, these situations can improve to various degrees. So that's where I came up with this. So one of the things is planning and discussing ahead of time. So with time and getting to know yourselves and your situation, you can know some of the main things that are going to be difficult, whether that's a crowd with hypervigilance and scanning the crowd, or whether it's noise or sleep. So on this slide, there are just a few ideas about some of those main triggers. So one of them is carrying a card with a short list of steps to follow. So sometimes if a person is feeling really disoriented or upset, then just a few key steps that they can do to ground themselves and feel a bit better. And that's been very helpful for both my spouse and myself. Another one is a catchphrase, and this doesn't just have to be with the spouse with PTSD, it can be with other family or friends too, but just to keep everyone respectful and productive, even if it's just something as simple as I need to calm down before talking further, so that we can take the time and be respectful of a certain anxiety level and bring that right back down so that we can have some conversations. One that's specific to my own situation with my husband is that we have gotten to the point where we can travel, but airports and other loud and crowded areas can be difficult. So wearing earphones, carrying a squeeze ball, something like that can make it a lot easier. Shopping is something that is difficult for a lot of people with PTSD, but can be made easier if you're going at a quieter time, going to a place with wider aisles, and that way you can kind of reintegrate shopping as part of your routine while being less anxious. Another one is using a fan or white noise machine, and that can be for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's mostly for sleep routine, sometimes it's for hearing difficulties, and something for anxiety. So that can be a worthwhile investment for sure. And absolutely, we're going to talk about self-care later on, but quiet time each day, and that can be for yourselves as a couple, for a family, alone, with pets, whatever it might be, but just some time to restore and get back to a little bit of meditation and calmness. So we can move on to the next one now. And this one, again, this is going to be general to all couples, but especially when PTSD and or traumatic brain injury are in the picture, communication is something that needs to be a little strengthened. So one of the things is timing, and sometimes it's as simple as setting a date to discuss some of the trickier topics, more challenging ones. Finances, changes to career, and transitioning, and those are coming up for a lot of our spouses. Doctor's appointments, sometimes when a spouse is going through, when a serving member or a veteran is going through their counseling or peer support, then that's going to be something where they need a little bit of extra time to come down from and maybe discuss it the next day. Another thing that helps is writing. Sometimes whether it's a thank you, I've gotten some thank yous around the house, which is actually very nice, but also when it's a more challenging topic, if something is written down on a Post-it note or in a journal, that's helpful for somebody who has cognitive difficulties. It's helpful if they're going through a lot of frustration. They can take the time they need to focus and to process and to find a constructive way of expressing rather than trying to go at it in the moment verbally. So that's been a very helpful one as well. And can't stress this one enough, to ask for help. So be open to outside resources. We've just been introduced to a number of wonderful resources that are available. And none of us is alone. We don't need to feel isolated or ostracized. So there are workshops. We've also talked about the OSI clinics. And I know that one thing that has been helpful is we've moved from accessing some counseling as well as the OSIS support. And that's peer support. So it's different from counseling, but it's a wonderful resource, and that's something that we've actually gotten involved with as volunteers ourselves, and so I really recommend that one as well. So whether it's peer support, books, whatever, definitely be open to those outside resources that can help out, whether yourself personally or you're as a couple and families.
These are fantastic points. And you know what? You're absolutely right. They're for general couples as well as anybody with PTSD.
Absolutely.
And these are some points that worked for you.
Yes. Yeah, I should stress that that's specific to our situation, but I think they can be useful to a variety of couples who are working on communication in particular.
I love that you got a thank you note.
Yes, that's taken some time, but I do get those now around the house.
7 years.
Kind of
Wonderful. Thank you. So each family obviously is very different, and so how do you work with the different changes? How do you highlight and celebrate what we can do?
I think that's definitely come with time as well, and I'm sure that some of the other speakers are going to have a great perspective on this, but something that we have found so useful and positive is looking at the possibilities. So reframing, we're always going to have time to look at the injury, but it's important to also look at what is still the same about us or what can still be tweaked so that we can retain that part of our lives and move from survival to thriving. So there is going to be a new normal, but we're still in there. The same person is still in there. So sometimes we socialize differently when confronting PTSD, and a lot of people are still at that point where they're still within their home. So we're going to move from that little setting outward gradually and when the person is ready. But sometimes we can incorporate old hobbies in a new way. So I gave a few examples from my husband and myself, as well as some of our friends, specific to what we've gone through. So maybe we're not ready to attend a concert, but you might still involve people coming over to your home, trusted friends. So maybe one friend or two friends who can come over and still play or listen to music. Maybe not ready yet to join a large cooking class, but cooking has been a large part of your life before, so you're back to trying new recipes. So still within your home, but ready to be in the kitchen together and work on that. And a large one that can be very difficult for people who have been experiencing PTSD is not feeling as comfortable with driving. So it might be that a person is not driving at all, or that they're not behind the wheel often. So figuring out if that's an option for you yet and how to incorporate that, whether that's traveling together and going and watching sunsets with the spouse driving, or if the serving member or veteran is driving but in a quieter area. I'm just noticing some comments from Paula. Thank you. Intercom program, wonderful.
Yes, and we're actually working with the Intercom program, Paula. I'm working with Health Promotions to bring the Intercom to a virtual classroom, which is very exciting for us as well.
That is a fantastic idea.
So that anybody could join it regardless of their posted location. I'd love to hear from Jeanette and Paula on your thoughts on what can we do, the new normal, and how that affects the spouse. Like, Lee had some really great points here, and what are your thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, my turn?
Because during our practice session, you had some great responses, and I was wondering if you could bring some of those to the table.
So, new normal, there's, in our house, I don't know, every day is new normal.
Absolutely. No, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, we have that varying normal as well, Paula.
Yeah, you have to learn how to predict the unpredictable, kind of, yes, in a weird, twisted sort of way. My husband just makes life much more interesting. We're definitely never bored.
No, not a dull moment, right?
All right. So, Jeanette, did you have any comments?
No, not at this time.
Okay, fantastic. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Lee?
Not to that section, no. No, I don't think so.
Great. So let's have a look at the self-care. So what are you doing for yourself? If you can take looking after your dog. If you can take the big, thick blue arrow on the top left-hand side of your screen and claim a space underneath mine, somewhere on the board, and then I'm going to ask you to use your text tool to write what you do for self-care. How do you do self-care for yourself? Christine, if you could bring your arrow back a little bit, then you'll have more room to write. Back right underneath mine. There we go. And so now just use your text tool, and beside your arrow, write anything that you do for self-care. I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to do that activity. So use your text tool and write that. And Diane, are you able to find your text tool, your arrow? Diane, you're muted. Hi, Diane. Whoops. Try it one more time. to unmute. Okay, Diane?
Hi.
Are you able to use your arrow?
No, I'm
so on
having
the top left-hand side of the screen is a great big thick blue arrow. It's called a pointer. If you click on that once, you click somewhere on the board. Try it.
No luck.
See it? Do you see the T on the top left-hand side of your screen?
No.
Okay. It's on the left. It's a big thick blue arrow. While everybody's working here, let me see. Tell me what you see.
I see participants, and it's a big.
Okay, that's on the right-hand side. What do you see on the left-hand side? Way up top, it says Quick Start, File, and then there's a big blue pointer.
No, I don't see any of that. I have participants, chance, chat, questions and answers.
That's on the right-hand side. Look on the top left-hand side.
Okay, my left, your right.
Right.
Okay.
I'll give it a little arrow. Should be right up there. You see my arrow on the screen? It's above the slide itself, Diane, on the top left-hand side.
There.
See it?
Okay. Looking in the wrong place.
There you go. And now click on the T, and that way you'll be able to write with your T. Click on the T, and then you can click on the board with your T, and you'll be able to write.
Thanks.
I'm just going to give you another minute, guys. Great. Okay. So, Diane, you like to breathe. Breathing is good. I always say to my mom, breathing is good. I love that. Walk and smile. And Ed, you like to swim, walk, breathe as well. So, Diane, tell me about the breathe. When do you choose to breathe? You're muted. How does breathing?
Let me unmute.
How does breathing help you with your self-care?
Just slow things down for a few minutes and start over.
Fantastic. All right. And Christine, I like the wine. What is of all these self-care tips, which one do you relate with the most? Which one is most important to you?
I think I'd have to say exercise for me. I have to kind of almost ramp it up for it to come down again, if that makes any sense.
Okay. And do you have an opportunity to exercise regularly?
I do. I take several classes, yes.
Fantastic. And Ed, what would be one in your list that's really important to you?
Well, I guess it's swimming. I guess is something that I do on a regular basis, although I haven't got it back at it this fall, but I will, and I do it about 4 times a week, and it's great for all my joints and my overall fitness.
Fantastic. And Paula, what's your self-care?
If I say the most important, yes, shop alone.
Shop alone. Like that.
This is Paula.
That's self-care. It's good for me.
And Lee, tell me about your Zumba class.
Oh my goodness, what a laugh. No, it's a great workout, but what I like is that a couple of friends and I are going too, so it's a social opportunity, and we're at that point, my husband and I, where I don't feel worried about leaving the house and going and doing those things for myself, so it's a way to get fit and have fun and a good laugh, a great way to start my week because it's on Monday evenings too, so great way to get things going.
Fantastic. Exercise, breathing. Jeanette, we haven't had a chance to hear from you. What is one thing that you do for self-care?
So mine would be walking.
Walking.
I love to walk. I love to breathe. But also we have started making it a daily routine now with my husband recently starting his cardiac rehab. we do it together to give him that initiative. So we're helping and each other.
Isn't that nice? Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. Did you want to add anything here, Lee?
Well, what were yours?
Oh, that's right. I would have to say, you know, I'm not very good at it. I would have to say walking my dog. I think because when I'm either I'm working or I'm looking after mom, and if I'm not doing one of those two things, then I come home and make dinner and get house stuff ready. But I much prefer to take that time in between just to take Sadie out. And if we don't have Sadie, I think I'd be in trouble. Yeah, so walking my little dog. Thank you for asking, Lee. So now in a virtual classroom, whenever we have a brainstorm opportunity, we always try to have some answers. So Lee has provided some of what she does for self-care as well as some other tips on this slide.
Yes, and I think that we've spoken to a number of these, but again, just to reiterate the outside support, because sometimes being a caregiver and advocate are such a huge part of our journey, but we need to not let them completely overwhelm our other roles as a spouse. So if stress is starting to take over to the point that we're struggling with other things in our relationship, then we should certainly look for outside support. We did talk a lot about some self-care options, and everybody had some really fun ideas. And the last thing is, of course, being adaptable and maintaining a sense of humor. And as Paula said, it's about the unpredictable. So if you can maintain a sense of humor as you go, then that'll make a world of difference.
I also love the breathing because, you know, breathing is such a natural part of our life, but it's part of our self-care. You're absolutely right. And sometimes if I can't sleep at night, I will mindfully breathe and just doze off very, very nicely.
That's a great option. Yep.
Ah, fantastic. Diane, did you have a question? No, I'm just looking in the chat. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our presentation on just some of the phenomenal resources that are out there from Caregivers Brigade and from Ed with his family liaison officer sharing about that, and from Lee sharing about her personal experience. I'm really excited to have you here. If you could just do me a favor and take your arrow one more time and maybe put one comment or aha moment or question that you may have for the panelists, and I'll give you about 2 minutes to write those up. It doesn't have to be, it could be a comment or a thought. When you finish writing, I'd like you just to fill in this survey. So if you click on the chat, and then when we come back, we'll talk about your questions and comments. So I'm going to put in the chat a link to a survey. If you can just take a few minutes to fill that out, and then we'll come back and talk about these questions and comments. So double click on that and just give us a green check when you're back. Ed, if you like, feel free to fill in the evaluation too, Ed, if you'd like. soon, Sadie, soon. Christine, have you had a chance to look at the link? Just double click on the link if you, oh, you've done it, great. And Paula, have you had a chance to work on that link? We lost Diane. Great. Fantastic. So, Ed, really enjoyed learning the resources available. Good to have the opportunity to do this presentation with the Caregivers Brigade. What a great partnership. Hey, Ed, tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm just finishing off the, am I on mute? Am I on mute?
No, I can hear you. Oh, you're just finishing off the...
Yeah, I didn't quite finish that. No, it's just a great privilege to, just to be able to be a part of this whole experience. And, to top it off, I learned more resources. I knew there was a lot of resources available, and I had seen when I first had the opportunity to see the Caregivers Brigade, I checked it out fairly extensively. So it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. I'm just going to share it, like you say, Paula, everywhere I can.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ed.
Okay.
And Christine, you see now. So thank you for sharing all the wonderful resources available to families, individuals going through PTSD. It's so important to realize all that is available. And the reason I'm reading that out is for you, Jeanette, so that you can see some of the comments that are so very important with reference to the resources that are available.
Thank you so much, Margaret.
You're welcome. So Lee, you're saying thank you for the information and ideas you've shared today. It will be, it's in blue, so it's hard. It will be, can you repeat that, Lee, for me?
Yes, and sorry, Paul, I was trying to move my text off so that you could see Paul as well. I'm not quite sure how to move that, but thank you for the information ideas you've shared today. I'll be sure to share them with fellow military families working through PTSD. So some other people who are looking for resources, I'll be sure to pass those ideas along.
Fantastic. And that other website I'm going to add to the after session email too. So so much great information. And Paula.
What did I say? I said breathing. Our flow here locally taught me something called square breathing, which was really cool to learn, and it's very relaxing. So you don't breathe for 4 seconds, then you count to 4 while you're breathing in, then you count to 4 while you're breathing out, then you don't breathe for 4 seconds, and then you repeat. And it's so relaxing. It takes a lot of concentration to do it, and it's so relaxing that I almost fall asleep after doing it.
Isn't that a great resource? Fantastic.
That was taught to me by the flow, which was very awesome.
Good flow. Yeah.
The flow. You have lots of tips and tricks up your sleeve, Ed. Hey.
No, breathing is so important, and relaxation is so attached to our mind and our body. And it's just we worry about things and we fret about things, but if we forget to breathe, none of it makes any difference, really. You know? That's
right. So we have recorded the session, so I would really love to be able to share this resource with other people. If you're okay with that, I'll ask you again personally, each one at a time, offline, just to make sure that's okay. Please bear in mind that a health professional should always be consulted to provide comprehensive assessment and treatment for members with operational stress injuries, including PTSD and TBI. I want to take this opportunity to thank Jeanette and Paula and Marie and Ed and Lee for bringing this phenomenal information to the table in our virtual classroom, and we're really looking forward to more virtual opportunities. So thank you. And thanks, Christine, for coming. I'm going to unmute you so we can hear your beautiful voice.
Thank you. It was absolutely wonderful to meet everybody.
Yeah, it was nice hearing from you, Christine.
You too, Ed.
Great. Well, in order to exit out, you just click on the red X at the top left-hand side of the screen. And I'll be in touch with an after-session email. Thank you again so much. I really appreciate it. Great information.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Margaret.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.